Hello everyone, Mary Rose here at Stitch Bliss Corner, and it's Wednesday the 29th of January 2020. Now before I begin this video, I would very much like to thank all of those who reached out to me and asked me if I was okay with all the bushfires that have been going on. I very much appreciated your concern. Being Australia, we do have, unfortunately, bushfires pretty much every summer because the gum trees here, eucalyptus trees, they're really full of eucalyptus oil. And so if there are any fires anywhere, they get so hot they can explode even. And I think in California, actually, you have eucalyptus trees or gum trees over there, and the same problems happen with them. Excuse me. When the first settlers came to Australia, they were somewhat befuddled by the Aboriginals walking around, and they used to have fire sticks, and they used to walk through the bush and set fire to the woods. And excuse me, I don't know what's happened to my throat this morning. And anyway, you know, they thought that that was bizarre behavior, but they had been managers of the land here for thousands of years, and they really did know what was best, really, because setting fire to the bush as they walked along, it reduced the undergrowth and the fire load on the forest floor or the bush floor, and minimized the devastating effects of what happens when that builds up, that fuel load builds up. And recent policies have stopped the burnbacks anyway in the winter time because of concerns, ironically, concerns about smoke and the damage to the air quality and all this sort of thing. But unfortunately, as each year goes by, if the fuel loads aren't reduced, well, eventually something's going to happen. It's just going to. And because of that, we're just always going to have these terrible fires. And Australia is the driest continent on Earth as well. And so really we should have a lot more dams than we do have. And in some areas there is just no water to put the fires out. And that brings me to three men who came to Australia as volunteers to fight the fires here, and from America, and they lost their lives. They were sent out to fight a fire. They were in a plane that had fire retardant on it, and you know, it drops from the sky and puts the fires out, well, reduces the fire anyway. And they were sent to a certain area, but they found that the smoke was too thick and they couldn't really do that assignment. So then they went over to another area, and for some reason their plane came down. And I'd just like to pay tribute to these three heroes who were selfless enough to come to another country and help that country. You know, I mean, what can you say? Captain Ian Macbeth, First Officer Paul Hudson, and Flight Engineer Rick De Morgan Jr. And here they are. My heart goes out to their family and their friends I'm sure all who knew them knew what great characters they were and what values they had. Right. Now we will go on with my video. Okay, now what I would like to do first up is thank Dena half stitch cross stitch for her beautiful card that I got Christmas. A time to rejoice, a time to give, a time to share, a time to renew, a time to give thanks. Well, isn't that the truth? Time to give thanks. And look at those lovely berries on there. Now, Dena's channel, she tends to, well, she does blogging. And I remember the first time I was watching her channel, I missed quite a bit of it because she sort of says, oh, hello, you know, here I am and I'm doing this and goodbye. And, you know, well, goodbye, I'll see you next time. And then she sort of, I didn't realise that, didn't she come back and say, oh, you know, it's such and such a day. And so she goes on, it's like a diary, how she does her videos. So it took me a couple of views to realise what was happening, because I thought, well, that seemed to be a short video, you know, it said it was 30 minutes, you know. And anyway, and she does beautiful work, I mean, and she has a nice variety. I mean, there are some of the pieces that Dena has shown I have gone out and purchased myself, like Beach Babies was one of them. And it's just a lovely piece. She's recently finished, oh no, what was it called? Kingdom, Seaside Kingdom, I think, yes, with a castle on it, made out of sand and two children. Against, she used fabric that had the two tones on it, so that it had the dark blue sky, and then it had, you know, the sandy beach, and she stitched over that one. And then there was another one that she's framed, that one beautifully framed. And then there was another piece that name escapes me now. I think it was a Glendon Place piece, and it was just remarkable, gorgeous work that she does. So thank you very much, Dena, and you know, keep on doing what you do, because you do it very well. Now, so that's Dena. What else have I got over here? Oh, now thank you very much to all those who thanked me for my gridding video, the other one that I'm couching. I've had some positive feedback, and I thought, well, even if one person gives it a go and finds it a success, well, that's a success for me, because, you know, you put things out there, and it's just really good if someone decides to at least give it a chance. Now, I just thought I would draw your attention to these pens that you can get. You can get all sorts of gridding pens now. So if your major reason for not gridding is that you find it too laborious to sit there with a needle and, you know, put your grids in that way, you can use a gridding pen. And this one is particularly good because it has the blue water erasable part there. If that's focusing, probably not. Anyway, it says there, blue water erasable, and then that's the eraser pen on the other end. So when you no, I've got a piece of, oh, where is some Ada? I'm in my stitchy room, but I can't find any. How strange. Well, I could, but I'd have to get up, and I've got all the lights around me, which makes it very difficult. But I suppose I could just do it on a piece of paper. It might work the same way. Here's a first for us all. So there's the pen mark, and then theoretically we'll see if it'll erase it out. Oh yeah, so it'll erase it. So the good thing about that is, if you're putting a grid in and you put one grid part in the wrong place, well, you can rub it out with the other end. So I don't think it's got, oh, clover from Japan. So anyway, so a grid pen is a very good idea because, you know, people say that they think it's a waste of time gridding, they don't have time to grid, and the thing is, it takes a lot of time to frog as well. You know, I mean, I've seen some videos lately, especially with samplers, because they're so you know, recent ones anyway, it seems like everything's crammed into this area, and you only have to be one strand out and the whole thing just, you know, I don't even know how they fit it all in, to be quite honest. They seem very busy to me. But, you know, I get a little bit, I mean, when I look at stitching, I like to, for me anyway, unless it's a really challenging piece, you know, in its entirety, but, you know, I do like to get a certain sense of serenity and calm. Some of them are sort of, you know, quite, well, not well, busy. They're busy. And so therefore, the more you have to fit into a confined space, as far as I'm concerned, the more you really need gridding. Because gridding will tell you pretty quickly, within 20 stitches or so, that this is not going right, you know, and that's going to save you hours in the long run. You know, I mean, frogging, especially on those fine thread counts, you know, it can take a long time so that you don't damage your fabric. Yes, I think I've banged on about that long enough now. Now, what will we have next? Oh, now here's the FFO of the little Quiet Night, I think it's called, the dimensions kit that I did recently, and I decided that I would frame that, and here it is. I like this because it's got the little knots of wood there that I think echo the idea of a log cabin out in the wilderness somewhere. So there's that FFO. This is a very old frame. You know, I think these were sort of all the rage in the 80s, this kind of colour wood. Most people would balk at that colour now, but I think for this particular piece it seems to work quite well, so I'll be happy with that. Now the other fully finished piece is this one called Oriental Splendor, which I showed on one of my, I showed it recently, I can't remember, everything runs together sometimes. And this piece my daughter really likes, which is wonderful, because these flowers here, in particular, there are a lot of flower colours I changed, but these two in particular, I wanted to make them look like the peonies in her wedding bouquet, because my eldest sister, who is a wonderful artist, she immemorialized my daughter's bouquet, which I've shown this before, but anyway, it's a bit hard to see it there. Wait till I just put the oh, anyway, that's it. I've got a better one on an earlier video, but it's I think it's just the lightest. How can I get that light a bit better? Where's that one? Oh, it's worse. Oh, I might get Harlequin to show you a still of it, and I'll put that here. Okay, so I wanted to get the peonies because my sister, she painted the peonies from my daughter's bouquet. So I got those in this picture. Now I'll show it to you here, but it's a big frame. But I'm going to, well, this might be better. I'll go to a short video that I did of this piece close up, just for people who are interested in the stitching in particular. See you back here shortly. I'm going to frame this piece soon, which I mentioned in my last video. So I thought that I would just do a close-up of the stitching, just for people who are interested, and just show you the parts that are my favourite. Now this is the original picture, and Oriental Splendor, and designed by Lena Liu, Liu, in Gallery Cruel Embroidery. It was a dimensions kit. And if you notice these flowers here, I've done in a different colour, and also the roses there, I've done them different also, those roses. So anyway, I shall show you now my work. And I suppose I'll just start up in the corner here and work across. And as you can see, it's printed on the fabric. And so you only stitch certain parts of it. And really, you can suit yourself if you want to stitch a bit more than they're indicating that you need to. And I must say, I did get a bit carried away once I started the satin stitch and everything. And the stamens there, that was fun doing those. That's all printed there, and then it goes across to the stitching on the vase with the butterflies. Just there and there, the butterflies. And then across the bottom here. And just got a thread there. I'll just show you now my favourite parts. I think one of my favourite areas is sorry, that wandered off somewhere. Yeah, one of my favourite is this fish here, which I outlined in gold, and also the figures here, which I stitched over. I don't think that was the original intent to do that, but I did anyway. And then the top of this jar here, I went to town a bit with the gold thread there. Lazy daisy all round on the lilac. Then this little vase, I embellished it with the gold thread and satin stitch there, and the little flowers there. I mean, you just could indulge yourself as much as you liked with this piece, because you could just do what you wanted, which was fabulous, really. Okay, so there's just a little bit more of an in-depth look at Oriental Splendor. Right, so that was that. So I'll just show you the piece now, but it's very big. And I will show you a still of it so that you can see. But that's the frame. It's a poster sized frame, and my daughter was quite happy with just the plain white frame around, the mat around it. It isn't really a mat, I'll explain that in a minute. And you can see here there's a little bit of gold there, because I was sort of toying with the idea of putting gold around there. Sorry about these lights reflecting. But my daughter said she liked, because I said, oh, well, I just, make it completely white then, just do another mat for it. And she said no, she was quite happy with that little bit of gold here and there on the edges. She said it added to the character. So that's going to my daughter's home. I'll wait until I just pop that down here somewhere. Yes, that'll be going to my daughter's home, and it'll be, she said she's going to put it next to my sister's piece, which is, lovely, because she's a lovely girl. Of course she is, she's my daughter. And she's good because she doesn't, she's somebody that is very honest in a lovely way. She's tactful as well as being honest. So that's so good, because if she takes a shine to something, she really does like it. She's not just saying, oh, that's lovely, because you did it and you're her mother. She's just really good like that. So now what I was going to say is that this came out of the poster frame that I bought for that piece. Now, if you're on a budget, this is just a tip for you. Now, this piece that's inside the frame when you get it is, of course, the exact size of the frame itself. So if you want a little mat to go around your frame, you can just use this inner piece and just measure and cut it so that the edge can be used as the mat. Now, it's just flimsy paper, but if it's just for yourself, or in my case, my daughter, who was quite happy with it, that saves quite a bit of money and effort, because it doesn't take much to just measure in a little bit, cut your frame out. And as you saw, I was thinking of putting some gold on that. But anyway, she was happy with the way it was, so that was fine. But just as a little tip, because you know, you may as well save money if it's just for yourself, because originally that was going to be just for me on my wall, because, you know, and I'm not fussed about, you know, a really fancy framing for that, because, well, I mean, it in itself is, you know, there's a lot going on in that picture, so you don't really need a fancy frame for it anyway. I think it makes its own statement. Yeah. Anyway, so let's move on here. I'll just give you an update now on Lost No More. And for those of you who might be interested, after my video last time talking about Jesus and everything, what should I find on the carpet when I got up from my chair? This feather. And I just thought there were those amongst you that would find that quite significant. Right, now then, Lost No More. This beautiful dimensions piece, I'll just show you the picture that came with the dimensions first. And there it is, by K Olson, an artist who does quite a lot of images from biblical times, and he has portrayed Jesus quite a lot. And he manifests his faith in his art. I'm sure his painting has come to him very easily. So here we are with where we are. We've Lost No More. Now, I thought I'll have to do a video because I couldn't put it down. So last time you saw it, well, actually, I shall pause it here for me now and go across to, so that you can see the stages to where I am now. Right. So, I mean, I just, as I say, I couldn't put it down. So I thought to myself, I better do a video today, because otherwise it'll be too late. It'll all be done. So here it is. Still got to do the couching and everything, the outlining, of course, once I've finished. But here you can see the sheep here in the background, and there. And here's the lamb coming in just there. So it's, yes, it's just very enjoyable working on that. And usually I don't use black. Now up here, there's quite a bit of black in this area up here. I usually use 3371 think it is three. Is it 3371? Anyway, the very dark brown colour. But unfortunately, that colour was already in this particular piece, so I had to use the black. But it seems to be going okay, so that's all right. Now, here's something that I saw. I usually don't go looking for charts or anything like that because I've got quite enough with what I, now that I'm just doing one at a time anyway. And it's so easy. It's a bit like, I think if your husband is confused about why you've got so many cross-stitch, charts and everything, maybe you could put an analogy for him and just say, look at these men that, these millionaires and everything, and they don't have one car, they don't have just two, they have a garage with about 60 or 100 or more cars. There's something about them that makes them want to have them. Maybe they could relate to that a bit better. I mean, who knows? Because I think some men are absolutely mystified as to why you would want all those charts, but which is natural enough, because from their point of view, they're probably thinking you'll never be able to stitch them all. But I suppose, we do want a choice of what we stitch. That's the thing. And I mean, you can always sell them later on eBay or something if you don't get to, or you taste change, I suppose. I mean, it's always good to keep the brakes on a bit. But anyway, I mean, I'm saying this husbands rather than to men, and their wives and what they think of their stitching, because I don't think I have any men that watch me. I think I had a few that watched me maybe once, and that was probably quite enough. But my son was going through my statistics, and pretty much only women watch my program, which is fabulous by me. I'm quite happy with that. I mean, I think one of the reasons why there are men that are quite frustrated and bolshy or angry about, in general, about things, is they don't have anywhere now where they can all just go and be men. The only place they can go is maybe their garden shed or something. But there used to be places like pubs and clubs, men-only clubs, and, certain pubs anyway, where women just didn't go. And the men were able to be themselves. They could be vulgar in their language, they could say what they liked, and then they would go home to their wives and families and be perfectly mellow and happy about things because they'd vented their spleen, or they'd just be able to be themselves. And now they can't do that anymore. I mean, even the scouts that used to be for boys, girls are in that now. And it's like, I mean, no boy really wants to go into the guides. I wouldn't think, the girl guides. It used to be girl guides and boy scouts. And the boys used to do boy things, They used to do things that girls would probably be revolted by. But that's what they used to do. They used to get out there and be boys and men, just doing the male thing. And then somehow or other, girls went into scouts when they had girl guides. I mean, I can understand in some ways, I see, equality, blah, blah, and all that. I do get the equality thing. I mean, I was one of the women's libbers myself, unintended consequences, I suppose, because, as I say, no boy really wants to go into the guides, the girl guides. So, I mean, probably the girls are still mostly just girl guides, and theirs is still exclusively girls. But the boys, they can't just have their exclusively boys scouts. Girls are in there as well now. So I think boys and men, there is nowhere they can go, is what I'm trying to say, to just be male, to be together as males. in that kind of environment. And I think that's a shame, because I think it's probably one of the reasons why there is that underlying frustration with a lot of young men and everything. There's nowhere they can be themselves, I suppose. Oh, how did that happen? Sorry. Start again. Right, now then. So I did see this, and once again, it's a Thomas Kinkade, Painter of Light, Sunday Outing. And that just popped on, I don't even know what I was looking at, and there it was. And I thought, well, that looks intriguing. Now, this is a Kandamar Designs. I don't think Kandamar Designs are in business anymore, but I think there's probably still quite a lot of these around and about if you go looking. So let me just have a look in here, because this is one of those ones, like Oriental Splendor, where it's actually printed on the fabric and you cross-stitch certain parts of it. So there's the printed fabric. And there are just certain areas on it that will have the stitching. Now, there are people that don't really like these kind of, half printed, half. I suppose there's a little bit like diamond painting, like some of the diamond painting, they order it and they're quite disappointed when it gets there, because part of it is printed on the canvas that they get, and there's only certain areas where you stick the little tiles. But I just think this is going to be quite enchanting, because I really like that picture. It's a bit, as my mother would say, it's a bit chocolate boxy. It's a bit, OTT. But there's nothing wrong with a bit of OTT from time to time. And I'll just have a look in here at what they give you, because I've put the little charts in there, of course. Then there's the threads, and then the card there. Now, I'm thinking that this will be one of those ones that, although the threads aren't actually sorted there for you, they usually give you a certain number of threads, so that you can pretty much easily sort them out, because there are 4 greens, dark greens, so they must be the 4 dark greens, and they'll make sure that the other greens are 3 and 2, so you don't mix them up. There's 3 of light green and 1 of extra light green and all that sort of stuff. That makes it easier for you to work your threads out of where they go. But anyway, so I just thought you'd be interested to see that little printed design. Now, what else have I got here? I put things together from time to time. Now, I think it's partly because I'm stitching that Lost No More, that I was thinking of the days of the 60s and Woodstock and all that sort of thing. And at that time, there was a big resurgence in Jesus. And I think the reason for it was because he was very much, or is very much, turn the other cheek, forgive your enemies, love your enemies, caring and understanding, and all these fine attributes. And the hippie movement picked up on that. And I'm surprised a lot of people that are of the progressive bent in their beliefs, they call it so-called progressive, rather than conservative, why they don't consider him to be a natural fit for them. You know, but anyway, these hippies anyway, this particular group did. And there was one song by Crosby, Stills and Nash. I don't know if Young was with them at the time, but anyway, it was called Love the One You're With. And I'll put a link below for it, because it did very much encapsulate the 1960s hippie movement. Anyway, I thought I'll listen to that song again, so I did have a listen. And underneath in one of the comments was someone that said this, Tim Uran, Auran, and he said, "The best life advice: love the car you drive, the jeans you wear, the mother you have, that mushy banana on your counter, and your lame-ass job. Love what you have, what's right in front of you, all of it, and the one you're with, right now, in this moment. It's all you got." And I thought, what wisdom is in those lines? The secret of happiness is being content with what you have. That's another way of putting it, isn't it? Now, is there anything else I want to share with you this time? I thought perhaps US viewers might be interested in this tin that I've had for many years. I keep my coloured pencils, well, some of them, some of my coloured pencils in here. And it's a Whitmans Sampler tin that I got. You know, it had chocolates in it. And see, it's a little sampler. And maybe if I was going to do one, I might do one. See, and around the edge it's got the Christmas. All my pencils rattling about in there. And I think it was a tradition that Whitmans put out a particular sampler every year, like this. But I think that particular one would look very good on a blue background. I sort of think a lot of the Christmas stitching, where, you know, you've got the reindeer and everything going across the sky. It's often against browns and yellow fawny kind of colours, tea-dyed and everything. And I think how much I like the ones that are done on the blue. I think that makes everything stand out better, I think. That's just your personal choice, isn't it? Because they all look lovely anyway. Now then, was there anything else? I might just show you this. Now this is, there was a book that was put out came free with a magazine, Madison. And inside was a picture and then a blank page. And I thought that it would be very good to be able to practice drawing, because I only do birds, really. I paint birds, that's it. But I do like to practice drawing from time to time. And this was so good because it was the photograph on that side and the clear one on that side. So I could practice my drawing. And I thought, well, that's handy for a good idea for if you're thinking that you wouldn't mind trying, you know, a bit of drawing. I'll just see if I can find some of these other, I mean, you know, they're not great by any means. But see, you can just, and it is fun because you get the coloured pencils out as well, you see. I think I fall down in the shading. That's my problem. I just don't shade enough. But I decided no matter how awkward the picture was, I'd still try to have a go at it. Just for the heck of it, you know. See what else we've got in here. Oh, these are the beach. He looks like he's escaped from somewhere. That's not very good rendition of him. But I think the clothes, it was interesting with the clothes, just trying to get them similar. Because, I mean, faces are so hard to do, aren't they? So it's an idea for you if you're thinking about drawing or having a go at drawing. You could just get, you know, just a picture and just see what you can do with it. Why not? Yeah, anyway, can't go through all these. Her legs go on forever, don't they? Look at that. Wow. Right. Any more in here? Oh, that was a bit of a fail there. But it's amazing the way they can get these shots. I mean, unbelievable. That dress is amazing, isn't it? It's a real 50s look. Yeah, anyway, that's enough of that nonsense. Right, so I would like now to wish everyone a very happy, you know, New Year. I mean, we're nearly finished the January now and into the February. I'm going to continue with my Lost No More today, and I would say that next time I do a video that will be complete. Then I will be thinking about the next piece, whether I decide to finish a few of, I've got a few whips there, or whether I decide to do one more piece that has been calling to me before I get back to them. I'll just have to have a think about it and see. One thing at a time, one day at a time. So until next time, all the best to all of you wonderful stitchers out there, and I'll see you later. Bye for now.